So what are the benefits of useful meditation? Well, there's a lot of them, and the best way to go about it is to make sure that we go through it one by one, taking each aspect of the practice and explaining what benefits that particular aspect brings. Now, the first place we should start really is Vedic meditation, seeing as the central component of our practice. Now, the benefits include reduced depression and anxiety, which is a huge one. And it also gives you an escape from that mood twice throughout the day at a minimum. And that's not something to be sneezed at. In fact, those 2 parts of the day for me were like oases just dotted about my day. But I could look at the calendar for the day and say, right, this might suck, but by the time I get to 4 o'clock, it's going to be wonderful. And it's going to completely wipe away what crap I've had during the day. And if that doesn't thrill you, we could talk about how it lowers blood pressure and the risk of heart disease. It's also pretty good at getting you into the mindset for sleep, actually getting you to bed, and when you're there, making it easier for you to get to sleep, which I'm sure there's quite a few of you out there that would love to have a better night's sleep. For me, it was the energy. Having boundless energy throughout the day, never getting tired, and knowing that if I do get tired, I just need to have 20 minutes by myself and then I'm back to normal again, was unbelievably huge for me. It changed my entire life. I went from smoking cigarettes and struggling throughout the day with several cups of coffee to the point of not needing coffee at all, having 1 cup of coffee in a day, going from somewhere like 6 or 7 cups in a day. And at the time I was actually vaping before I went, and at that time I was tethered to my vape. I was one of those sub-ohm guys, the big cloud guys, the obnoxious guys, and I used to take around a battery charger with like 4 or 5 sets of spare batteries on me, just to keep me charged, make sure that everything was okay. And to go from that to someone who's tethered to mugs and vaping devices, to somebody who's completely free of all of it and actually finds that person who I was previously to be rather silly. That was life-changing in the most profound way. But all of this is why we call Vedic the cornerstone of the practice. It's the veritable linchpin. It really is. But before we move on, the one I want to talk about is something that works in conjunction with another aspect of the practice. When we meditate, we're using a mantra to get ourselves deeper and deeper. But inevitably, there comes a time where we come back to thought, where thoughts start to creep in, where our daily lives start to surface. Part of Vedic meditation is teaching self-awareness of thought, the ability to recognize when we're thinking and what we can do about it. Vedic gives you that awareness. It gives you that sense of being able to step back and say, oh, I'm thinking, I should move on. But what do you do once you realise you're thinking out in the waking world? Well, this is where self-inquiry comes in. Now, self-inquiry is the most esoteric of the practices we use. It's a practice I first heard of through Ramana Maharishi, or Bhagavan. When we're out in the world, when we are subsumed by our own thoughts, there aren't many tools that allow us to step back and be self-aware about what it is we're experiencing. So let's just say you're on the way home from work and your train is delayed, and all of a sudden you find yourself quite getting aggravated about it and upset, which is kind of understandable, but by the same token, it's not really doing you any favours to be upset about it. Those thoughts grow, they fester like mould, they continue to grow, and they might very well ruin your entire evening. If we're practicing Vedic meditation, we have a tool that allows us to step back from our own thoughts and see them as they are, just thoughts. But what to do about them? None of us really have those tools when we're born. None of us are just given these things. Once we've stepped back through Vedic meditation and are able to see our thoughts from a kind of sort of broader angle, self-inquiry gives us the ability to create questions we can ask of ourselves to diffuse these negative thoughts, or even positive thoughts, for sometimes even positive thoughts can be intrusive. These two techniques, in conjunction with each other, are beyond profound, especially out in the waking world. Eventually you'll get to the point where a negative emotion comes up, and it's not like you're ignoring it, it's not like you're trying to repress it, you're acknowledging it. You're saying, I'm angry about this, but it's not doing me any favours to hold on to that right now. So it's better for me to let it go and come back to it and deal with it with a more level head. That's what it's about. We're not talking repression here. And what we want to do with self-inquiry is to foster it, to make it more powerful with every single day we practice it. So the easiest way to think of it is that useful or Vedic meditation allows us to see what we're thinking, to recognize that we're thinking, and self-inquiry allows us to deal with it in a way that's not negatively impactful psychologically, but to come back to it at a later time, or to look at it as just being a silly thing that we've been thinking. So these two together are the most beneficial in terms of tangible results for you. Now, there are two other aspects of useful meditation, but they're more about supporting these two aspects practically. So there's no real need to get into them right now. So to conclude this, I just want to recap all of our benefits that we've discussed so far. Lower blood pressure, lower risk of heart disease, more controllable PTSD and bipolar disorder, reduced stress and better control of anxiety during the day. And here's one that's not actually that often talked about, but if you're a fitness person, if you're into lifting or you're into cardio, you will do yourself a big favour by starting Vedic meditation, because when you're meditating, you're actually at that sort of restful sleep stage where you're excreting growth hormone, which is massive. There's actually quite a few compelling studies on this, that bodybuilders who meditate actually have a leg up over bodybuilders that don't. So there's that too. And if you're even interested in just the history and the philosophy of meditation, you actually would benefit greatly from studying Vedic, even if you don't intend on practicing it, because it's the oldest form there is. And look, it's probably the wellspring from which all meditation arises. So if any of this sounds good to you and you're listening on Facebook, just message me privately, or you can hit me up on my email, which is cumnockmeditation@gmail.com. That's CUMNOCK meditation. So that's cumnockmeditation, all one word, @gmail.com.